Okay, now you are in a better position. Why I have chosen this and why it is necessary? What was the necessity of this slide? And you will come to know that after some time or when I complete this biodiversity portion. Now, what actually meant by biodiversity? The bio means life, diversity means variety. So for everything, a human being is depending on the biodiversity. For example, 42% of the world population depends on agriculture and nearly 23% of our food or the energy requirement comes from the mankind, comes from this rice. And we use lot varieties of vegetables, crops for our survival. But remember, this diversity is not uniform throughout the world. There are certain countries which are very rich in biodiversity, whereas there are other countries which are having less biodiversity. So, for example, I have shared a photograph of the world map. There you can see there are certain green spots. Can you make out? And these green spots, wherever you see the green spots, these are the regions or countries which have the maximum biodiversity. 65% of the world biodiversity is found within these countries where which has been marked as marked with the green dots. And those countries which are having this maximum biodiversity, they are called as mega biodiversity countries. What are those countries? Bolivia, Brazil, China, Colombia, Costa Rica, Democratic Republic of Congo, Ecuador, India, Indonesia, Kenya, Madagascar, Malaysia, Mexico, Peru, Philippines, South Africa, and Venezuela. See, the countries which I have just named, they are all the countries which are rich in diversity. They may not be rich in terms of economies because no European countries or American countries are named in this mega biodiversity country. Where do you find the mega diversity country? You can see this mega biodiversity in and around the equator. This is the equator, and just in and around the equator, you can see maximum biodiversity. That means the tropical countries are having maximum diversity. These are all the tropical countries. No temperate countries or Mediterranean countries are included in this mega biodiversity country. Why they are called mega biodiversity countries? Because they have a very rich heritage of diversity. Now coming to biodiversity. This biodiversity is made out of two words. First part is bio, second one is diversity. What do you mean by this? Bio means life, and what do you mean by diversity? Diversity refers to variety. Diversity refers to varieties. So biodiversity is the diversity of life or varieties of living beings. We call it as biodiversity. So that's why if you want to define the biodiversity, it is nothing but variability, variety and variability, I should say. Variety and variability among the living organisms from all the ecosystem. Variety and variability. What do you mean by this variety and variability? Variety refers to different kinds and variability refers to differences within each of these kinds. That we call it as variety and variability. So the biodiversity operates at three different levels. At a larger scale, it is the ecosystem diversity. Then next comes the species diversity, but at the subtle level, you can see the genetic diversity. So there are three levels of biodiversity: ecosystem diversity, species diversity, and the last one being the genetic diversity. See, I have shared the photographs of the dogs. Have you? Can you make out? Can you make out the
Animal
dogs?
Kingdom ಎಲ್ಲ ಗೊತ್ತು.
So just I have to go for forced mute because there are so many unwanted sounds are coming. So you can see these all these are dogs, but they are given different names: Chihuahua, Beagle, and Rottweiler. Observe the difference between all these three varieties, but they are not same. What is the difference is the variability. Though all of them are dogs, they are showing different shapes, height, color pattern, spottings, size class. Why it's so? All of you know that it is because of their genes. That means different genes are responsible for different types of these dogs, dog breeds. So this diversity of the genes, we call it as genetic diversity. So then comes the diversity of the species. See here, you can see the monkey, you can see the golden skimmer, you can also see a flower. Each one belongs to different species. Monkeys, dragonflies, meadow beauties, all are different species. Just imagine how many species there could be, and all those species which are found on in this earth, we together call it as species diversity. Then at the higher level, gross level, we have another type of ecosystem, another type of diversity, what we call ecosystem diversity. Different types of ecosystems: forest ecosystem, marine ecosystem, freshwater ecosystem, grassland ecosystem. Within the ecosystem, you can have different types. For example, if you take the forest ecosystem, it may be rainforest, evergreen forest ecosystem, deciduous forest ecosystem, shola forest ecosystem, mangrove ecosystem. So different types of ecosystem, and each ecosystem housing and supporting different types of species within them. So that's why this ecosystem diversity is at a very larger scale. See, shola forest, grasslands, these are all different types of ecosystems. So now, to summarize about these three levels of biodiversity, ecological diversity talks about different habitats, niches, and species interaction and different types of ecosystems. Species diversity means different kinds of organisms and their relationship among the species. Then the genetic diversity, different genes and their combination, and all the genes found within a population, we call it as genetic diversity. Probably this slide will give you some information about the magnanimity of this biodiversity. What might be the number of species of plants and animals which are found on this earth? To be very frank, the answer is we don't know. Till today, we don't know what is the total species diversity on this earth, because till today we have identified only 1.77 million species. We know that only 1.77 million species, but the total diversity is much more than this. Some say that it is 5 to 10 million species, some say it is 30 million species, even some say that it is 100 million. Because we have not studied or identified all the diversity that is found here. Why it's so? If you take the animals, more than 75% of the species are insects. How many insects we know? I know, even if I ask you, each one of you to list the insects that you know, it will not cross 25. But the animal kingdom, if you look into, 75% of the animals are the insects only. So that's why I have told you, till now nobody knows. What we know is a minuscule percentage of what it exists. Only 1.77 million species are identified and named, and many more are left out. Nobody has identified them. Even we have not given any name to it also. So out of these animals, or out of this biodiversity, what we know, around 2,48,000 higher plants, 69,000 fungi, 31,000 protozoans, 27,000 algae, 5,000 bacteria, and only 1,000 viruses we know. In India, if you take, there are more than 91,212 animal species are known to us, and 45,500 plus species of plants are known to us, and only bacteria and virus together we know 850, and fungi we know about 14,500 plus. So it doesn't mean that we have covered all this one. Remember, hardly we must have identified and named 1 to 5% of what it exists. Now, let's go in detail about the ecosystem diversity. What do we mean by this ecological diversity or ecosystem diversity? Ecosystem diversity refers to the system of living organism and non-living environment interacting with each other as an integrated functional unit. This is nothing but the ecosystem. All of you know what is this ecosystem. Ecosystem has again diversities. There are They are divided into realms, biomes, biogeographical zones, biotic provinces. In India only, if you see, one realm is Indo-Malayan realm. Biomes means distinct elements. All forest types becomes to one biome. In India, we have more than 10 biogeographical zones, more than 25 biotic provinces, and each one of them contribute to the ecosystem diversity. Just if I the photographs that I am sharing with you will inform you about the different types of ecosystems in India only. See, mountain ecosystem, desert ecosystem, wetland ecosystem, forest ecosystem, mangroves, coral reef ecosystems, and within mountain ecosystem we have eastern Himalaya, western Himalaya, and again different types. We have different types of forest and falls. In forest ecosystem, we have coniferous forest, deciduous forest, evergreen forest, moist deciduous forest, and whole gamut of living beings in those ecosystems. In wetland ecosystem, stagnant water, running water, rivers, coastlands, mudflats. In marine ecosystem, we have coral reefs, mangroves, estuary, seashore, pelagic, benthic, different types of ecosystem. This is one mangrove ecosystem, coral reef ecosystem. In that again atolls, reefs, different types are there. Desert ecosystem, we have in India the Thar desert. Now I have told you there are India is divided into 10 biogeographical zones. Trans Himalaya, Himalaya, Indian desert, semi-arid, Western Ghats, Deccan Peninsula, Gangetic Plain, coastal region, northeast and islands. Total land area of the earth is this much, 510,065 284 square kilometers, out of which forest cover is about 37.7 million square kilometers, approximately 26% of land area, out of which 40% of the forest is found in the South America, Africa and South Asia. There are about 5 million to 100 million species must be there. What we know is only 1.77, and there are 34 regions all over the world which are recognized as hotspots in the world. They are known as biodiversity hotspots or hottest hotspots of biodiversity. Why it is called so? Because these are the regions where you can see maximum species richness. Maximum number of species you can see in these 34 pockets. To give an example, we are lucky to have one such hottest hotspots, that's the Western Ghats, where all of us live. In India, we have two hottest hotspots. One is the Western Ghats where we live, and the second one being the northeastern forest. See, 44.4% of plant species and 35.3% of vertebrate species are found within these 34 hotspots. So that's why they are considered as hottest hotspots of the diversity. If you come to the Indian scenario, total land area of India is 143 million hectares. We share only 2.47% of world's geographical area and has only 1% of the forest. India has 16% of world human population and 15% of cattle population, but the forest cover is only 23.57%. Though land area is only 2.47% of the world geographical area, but we are sharing 12.53% of world biodiversity. So that's why India is known as India is one among the mega biodiversity countries of the world. Because though our land area is only 2% of the world share, but biodiversity share is about 12.5%. So India has 3.9% of grasslands, 2% of hot deserts, and 4.1 million hectares of wetland ecosystem. So the India is one among the 17 mega diversity centers. ಏನು ಕೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದೆಯಾ? ಹಲೋ. ಕೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದೆಯಾ?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Then let's first discuss about some of the facts. India has recorded more than 45,000 plus species of wild plants and 89,000 more than 89,000 species of wild animals and at least 320 species of wild relatives of cultivated plants. This is very important to designate any area as hottest hotspot or mega biodiversity country. That is 320 species of wild relatives of cultivated plants. What do you mean by wild relatives of cultivated plants? Probably I can give you an analogy. All of you, or if not all, many of you grow rice in your paddy field and you might have seen them. These are the cultivated varieties of rice. But if you go to forest, there also you can see some varieties of rice. Though we may not cultivate them, but they look like our rice variety. And those varieties are known as wild relatives. To give one more example, banana all of you have seen and you cultivate. In the forest also there is a wild banana. In Kannada what you call kadu bale. Lot of seeds inside the fruit. And that kadu bale or wild banana is the wild relative of our cultivated plant. Forget all these things. Many times when you travel to the upghats, either through this Devmane Ghat or Dodmane Ghat or any other thing, in the early morning when you go in the forest, you see wild fowls. ಏನು ಕನ್ನಡದಲ್ಲಿ ಕಾಡು ಕೋಳಿ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೀರಲ್ಲ.
Yeah.
This ಕಾಡು ಕೋಳಿ or wild fowl is the wild relative of our cultivated fowl. Why I am stressing on this wild relatives is the wild relatives are actually the source of cultivated varieties. Either our cultivated rice or cultivated banana or the domesticated chicks, they have come from their wild resources. So these wild resources are the treasure of genes and it can be used extensively for breeding activity and we can come out with good number of cultivated or domesticated animals or cultivated plants. So in India altogether we have recorded 1,39,000 species of plants and animals, but there is a guesstimate. More than 4 lakh species are yet to be identified. Now there are 3 mega centers of endemism and 26 micro centers of endemism. What do you mean by endemism? Endemic plants and animals or endemism. Endemics are those species, either it may be plant or animal, which have a restricted range. Which have a restricted range. In the sense, these are the plants or animals which are not, which are seen in a certain pockets or certain areas only, not elsewhere. To give an example, you might have heard about line-tailed macaque. In Kannada, what you call singalika. Line-tailed macaque. Line-tailed macaque is the endemic species of our Western Ghats. So they are found not in the entire Western Ghats, they are found only in the central and southern Western Ghats. They are endemic to this region. Except this Western Ghats, you will not be able to see this lion-tailed macaque anywhere in the world. That means they have a very restricted distribution, very restricted range. Like that, there are many plant and animal species which are endemic. And there are certain pockets where you can see the highest degree of endemism. To give an example, more than 40% of the amphibians, they are endemic to Western Ghats. That means They are found only in the Western Ghats, not anywhere else. So, two things help us to declare any country as mega diversity country apart from the diversity. These two things are, one is the number of wild relatives of cultivated plants, and the second one is the degree of endemism. How many plants and animals are endemic? That decides whether to name a country as mega biodiversity country or not. So here is a list of plant species in India as well as in the world. The next one, the animal taxa, animals. This is the list of only the known taxa. Unknown is much more than what I have shown you. Insects 60,000, mollusca 5,000, fishes 2,500, amphibians 190, reptiles 400, like that. This is the birds 1,175. This is the known list. Then if we come to Karnataka, Karnataka is the eighth largest state in the country, total area of 1,91,791 square kilometer, and our coastal cover is 5,425 square kilometers, and we have a dominated by mangrove 60 square kilometers. It is the home of sandalwood and rosewood, and it supports 25% of India's elephant population, and it supports 10% of India's tiger population, 60% of the Western Ghat, harbor many of these, both flora and fauna. Endemism, as I have told you, 0.5% or 1,500 species of world's 3 lakh plant species as endemic should be present. So out of the known plant species in the world, 1,500 species are endemic. They are found only in small pockets. In India, we have totally 4 hotspots: Western Ghats and Eastern Himalaya exclusively in India, and 2 more we share with the neighboring countries. One is Indo-Burma region, and the second one is Sundaland, which includes Indonesia, Malaysia, part of India, especially Andaman, especially Nicobar Islands. So we can say that there are 4 hottest hotspots in India, but out of which first 2 are exclusively found in India, and remaining 2 we share with our neighboring countries. Before understanding this diversity, we are expected to know certain terminology. One is extinct. Many times we say that a particular species has become extinct. What exactly meant by an extinct species? What exactly meant by an extinct species? Species which have permanently lost, not even a single representative is seen, not definitely located in the wild and never sighted even once in the last 50 years. If we have say a particular species which might have been found something 50 years or 100 years back, but today since last 50 years we have not seen, then we call those species as extinct species which have perished forever. The species which we lost permanently. The next one is the threatened species. Threatened means the species which are on the verge of extinction. Only few individuals are sighted or spotted. Only few individuals in certain pockets are spotted. Their number is very less. Unless an immediate protection is given, in a very short span of time, they are going to become extinct. Then the endangered species. This is the prior step of the species being threatened, endangered. They are also very small in number, found only in different locations or in their habitat. They are highly threatened, then we call them as endangered. Then the next one is vulnerable. Right now, plenty of individuals are sick, but they are being harvested or exploited in such at such a rate that unless you put certain methodology or conservation or management practices, shortly they will be reaching the status of endangered. Then rare. If you have not seen the species for a long time, only very rarely you come across. Those are known as rare species. There is also one more, that's the red data. Every year, IUCN, International Union for Conservation of Nature, bring out this red data book, which has an inventory of those organisms which have become extinct or threatened. So this is known as red data book. I will explain that later. Now the question, why biodiversity is important. I have told you, for every the very survival of the living being depending on the biodiversity. For our food resources, fodder, fruit, fuel, timber, medicine, we are depending on the biodiversity. Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yes.
ಬಟ್ ಏನೋ ಎಕೋ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ, ನಿಮಗೂ ಎಕೋ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆಯಾ?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
ಆ ಯಾಕೆ ಯಾರೋ ಏನೋ ಇದು
Yes, sir.
ಮಾಡಿರ್ಬೇಕು
Yes,
ನಿಮ್ಮಲ್ಲಿ.
sir.
ಯಾಕಂದ್ರೆ ಇಷ್ಟೊತ್ತು ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇರಲಿಲ್ಲ, ಈಗ ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್ ಆಯ್ತಲ್ಲ ಈಗ ಆಗ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ.
Yes, sir.
ಐ ಡೋಂಟ್ ನೋ, ಸಂಬಡಿ ಹ್ಯಾಸ್ ಮಸ್ಟ್ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಮೈಕ್ರೋಫೋನ್ ಅನ್ನು ಬಹಳ ಇದು ಮಾಡಿರ್ಬೇಕು, ವಾಲ್ಯೂಮ್ ಹೆಚ್ಚು ಮಾಡಿರ್ಬೇಕು ನಿಮ್ಮಲ್ಲೇ ಯಾರು. Okay, however we are coming to the end. So then biodiversity has commercial value. Oil, fertilizer, everything we are depending on biodiversity. And it has biological value also, because for the pollination of many plants we need animals. Soil formation is under their control. Nutrient enrichment of the soil is also under the control of this biodiversity. So that's why for diverse purposes we need biodiversity. Biodiversity has recreational value, aesthetic value, scientific value, everything. So for the day, I will stop here. I will continue in the next class.